Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking renewable energy, the positives and the negatives, with Lina of the Tana Law and Strategy Group, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Jesse Haw, conservative, businessman. Jesse has a plan to take Nevada from one of the worst states for election integrity to one of the best. He'll fight to pass voter ID, so everyone has to show identification to vote. And Jesse will work to make the practice of ballot harvesting a felony again. Join the fight to secure our elections. Elect Republican Jesse Haw, Nevada Secretary of State.
Liberals and rhinos always attack me because I'm a real conservative. I'm John Lee. As your governor, I'll pass constitutional carry because you have the right to protect your life and loved ones. I'll shut down Planned Parenthood in our state, and I'll never allow Nevada to become a sanctuary state for abortions or illegal immigrants. I'm John Lee, and I promise you this, I'll always lead with conservative values and put Nevada first.
Conservative John Lee for governor. Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org. With Nevada's only transplant center and verified burn center, the science is here. With award-winning cardiologist and the state's only dedicated heart failure clinic, the talent is here. With Nevada's most advanced robotic surgery, the technology is here. And with the Silver State's only designated pediatric trauma center, hope is here. All because we are here. UMC.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome to the program for the first time, Lina with Tana Law and Strategy Group. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. We want to talk about electricity and where we're heading, and the environmental issues, the whole gamut of things. In our previous show, we just had Andy McKay here from the Nevada Franchised Auto Dealers Association. And one of the things he was talking about was the need here in Nevada, because we're increasing our supply of electric vehicles to the state so dramatically. But that means we have to have charging stations all over. And I spoke to Doug Cannon from MV Energy about this a while back, and I asked him jokingly if MV Energy was going to get into the mini-mart business, because that's where most of the gas stations are. But what do you see in terms of, you know, say 5 to 10 years down the road, of how many charging stations we're going to need, and will we have enough electricity to power them for all the electric vehicles coming online?
Well, that's a great question. A lot has been done at the legislature, especially this last session with SB 448, to help incentivize that. So there was a docket, I'm sure you're aware, that was held in September on a flush of emergency funding to help with this charging infrastructure. So it essentially allowed Nevada Energy to spend up to $100 million on charging infrastructure in discrete areas, urban areas, tourism locations along the electric highway, in order to expand that infrastructure. And then they're also now tasked with doing, with bringing a transportation electrification plan annually now every September to keep augmenting that, and I think hopefully incentivizing additional private money to come into the state to further that goal.
It sounds like it sounds like a great business opportunity, yes, but you're going to have to have the money up front to be able to invest into this, because it's not going to turn around for a while.
And that's part of the reason, I think, for that influx of money, which was based upon essentially the pandemic. You're saying that we need to recharge our economy, and this is one way to do that, is to put this initial influx of cash in where they have very delineated ways in which they can install those particular chargers, which there's a whole world of charging companies that would come in and might do something differently, but this was a way that they sought to jumpstart this expansion. And so in the coming years, we're hoping that then you can modify that in any way that might meet a particular community's needs.
Okay, so just give you an example. You go to Gene down in Southern Nevada. That's the largest gas station, my understanding is. There's 100 pumps there. What are they going to need for chargers? Because they're going to need significantly more than that. Or you think about a regular Costco. They're already jam-packed up on a Friday afternoon. How much real estate and how many pumps are going to be needed for these charging stations?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure that I have the answer to that. I would say that for a truck stop like Gene, you're looking at level 3 charging environment where, and those are the most expensive.
And the fastest, right?
And the fastest, right? Because that's what you want when you're traveling. You don't want to be sitting there for 2 hours. Whereas if you were at a mall, you could probably get away with a level 2 charger because you're going to go to Macy's or whatever, wander around, go to a restaurant. Or if you're at your home and you want to charge overnight, then you're going to spend. Most consumers are going to spend a lesser amount of money with a level 1. But the level 3 is an environment which would allow the customer to plug in and do their business at the truck stop in 20 to 30 minutes and get roughly an 80% charge and move on down the highway. So yes, we need to have these strategic level 3 chargers, the most expensive part of the investment, along these popular corridors.
All right, so as you say that opens up a whole area for me in terms of possible money-making structures, because if you're going to be somewhere for 20 to 30 minutes, yeah, you can go have a cup of coffee or some lunch or something, but that would also be a place to have a shopping center surrounding it, because that way you would have a built-in customer base. I mean, who wouldn't want to have that?
Well, yeah, it's like, the adage, if you build it, they will come, right? I think it will. I think the 20 to 30 minutes is a little longer than we're used to when we gas up. But, if I'm going to Elko, I stop in Winnemucca, I'm going to stop at the truck stop or the gas station. I'm going to go in, I'm going to use the restroom, I'm going to buy a soda, and, that's 10 minutes. So something a little bit more than that, like a coffee shop environment, that, I think that it will incentivize small businesses to make use of that extra time for people until, I presume charging times will get faster and faster as technology improves, but right now that's where we're at.
Okay, and there's going to be a line because we're not going to be able to build these charging stations fast enough to accommodate, if we're looking at, I think Andy was saying 26% of the new cars being bought are electrified vehicles now. We're not going to be able to build the infrastructure fast enough that there won't be I mean, right now, you go to any gas station on a Friday afternoon, there's a line. Mm-hmm. So if it's a line of people taking 30 minutes instead of 5 minutes to charge their vehicles, so that really does open up. I mean, it's going to be more than just a short period of time.
Right, and you're right. I think to your point at the beginning is that you need the real estate to locate those chargers because you're still going to have the gasoline pumps, at least right. For the near term. And so yeah, you need to have that, and you need to have enough to meet the demand as the number of electric vehicle drivers increase.
Okay, so are you looking, as an industry, is the industry looking at a combination of gas pumps and electric chargers, or are these going to end up being two distinct things because the gas pumps are going to become less and less relevant over the next 25, 30 years, and the electrified is going to become more and more so?
Well, I'm just going to talk anecdotally. I think they already are two different things. If you drive around in urban areas, I mean, you might drive up to a grocery store and see a string of
Sure.
Tesla chargers, which you're not going to see a gas pump. Right, so it already is. So it's up to the individual businesses as to whether or not they want to install that infrastructure and support that part of their clientele. And I think more and more you're going to see that.
I don't know if you had a chance to read it. There was an article that broke last night in the New York Times, an opinion piece by Thomas Friedman, who was talking about the green energy movement and the fossil fuel energy system. And he was saying that they're both rushing in a direction, but neither of them are dealing with the situation realistically, which is that both have to exist, for a long time. And that's an ongoing situation. Like right here in Nevada, every time somebody, for example, tries to build, and I know you deal in environmental issues, every time somebody's trying to build a lithium mine, environmentalists are protesting this, despite the fact that lithium is going to be something, along with boron and other things, that are going to benefit the planet. But Teams Buckwheat is, trying to stop the mine down in the south. You've got Native American tribes trying to stop things going on at Thacker Pass. Where do you think this is all going to end up? Is it going to be the federal government saying, this is an emergency situation, national security issue, we have to get this done? Where do you think it's going?
That's a really interesting question. I have not read the article that you're referring to, but yes, I mean, I've been doing.
Basically, he says you guys got to sit down and talk to each other because it's not all going to happen at once.
Right.
One way,
and that makes perfect sense.
Can't pump gas forever, and you can't have green energy immediately because there isn't enough of the solar and the wind to be able to take over. And getting rid of nuclear is not the smartest thing that Germany ever did.
Well, let me just back up and say that I think most rational people understand that
rational
what in this world?
Rational, okay.
Let's start from the presumption that we're dealing with rational people, but most rational people understand that reliability is key. And I think that the commissioners at the Public Utilities Commission understand that. I think this administration, our governor understands that. The administration understands that. I think Governor Sandoval understood that as well, that reliability is key, but we're also a state that has really been on the forefront of moving towards climate resilience and addressing renewable energy with the resources that we have very cost effectively in this state. So lithium, that's a tricky subject. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while, and at the a decade ago, there wasn't a single mode of renewable energy that environmentalists liked. I mean, there's always problems with it, right? There's bird dust, there's, taking out swaths of public lands, and all of those issues still are there, but we do have to grapple with how do we go forward? What are the positives and negatives? What's going to get left behind to get us to where we need to be? So I think you're always going to have issues, especially when you're dealing with public lands, of is this the proper site? This might be the proper goal, but is this the proper site? And that's really the tension. I think that the Biden administration is moving in the direction of permitting, going forward on permitting these issues, especially in the realm of clean energy. There's some leases coming up for sale, I think this summer, if even now. Don't quote me, for geothermal up in the north counties. So all of these things are snowballing, and yeah, we do have to work together. And I think I would agree with you that we have to go forward kind of simultaneously until we can get to the point where one starts to drop off.
Well, the other thing is that we've been through a shock in the last year, where we've seen the war in Ukraine, we've seen China looking at all the countries around them and trying to claim everything that they possibly can, including we know that at some point in the future, probably not today or tomorrow, but in the future that they want to take Taiwan, and so. America has to look at its own, infrastructure and what minerals and ores that we have that we need for this. And so, to me, it is an issue of national security. And in some, in talking to some of these lithium miners, they're saying that the federal government is talking to them about these issues now.
Yeah, I think it is going forward. I can't weigh in on what's going to happen with the lawsuits with Thacker Pass, et cetera, but there's going to have to be some give because there's just not that many places in the United States that have lithium. I mean, we are one. We're very blessed in what we can provide.
And that's the largest lithium deposit in the country.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, it's something that is I mean, I realize it's a constant battle, and you have to be diplomatic here because you deal with everybody. But at the same time, you know, if we're going to move into this electric car future, and so many other things that are going to be dependent on lithium, that we need to keep going in this direction. Otherwise, you know, it all comes to a crashing stop.
Yes.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with much more after this time out.
Jesse Haw, conservative, businessman. Jesse has a plan to take Nevada from one of the worst states for election integrity to one of the best. He'll fight to pass voter ID, so everyone has to show identification to vote. And Jesse will work to make the practice of ballot harvesting a felony again. Join the fight to secure our elections. Elect Republican Jesse Haw, Nevada Secretary of State.
Ahern Rentals began as Signal gas station on Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder John Ahern grew the business by offering rentals. His son Don built on John's legacy, growing Ahern Rentals into the largest independently owned American rental company with 89 locations in 30 states. Don also brought his experience and vision to equipment manufacturing with Extreme Manufacturing and Snorkel. Today, Ahern Rentals continues to bring its family values to a new generation. Learn more at ahern.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com. I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker. Entertainment here at the Carson Valley Inn is extraordinary.
Yeah, super proud of the TJ's Corral, our outdoor venue, about 1,500 seats. We've had first-class entertainment out there. We've had Merle Haggard, we've had Chris Young, we've had Lee Brice a couple times, we've had Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, who's in the Hall of Fame. We're real proud out there, and it's just a great time. Watch CarsonValleyInn.com and grab those tickets early. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Lina Tanner. She is with the Tanner Law and Strategy Group, dealing with issues of electricity. So, California puts out the notice that they're expecting, because of wildfires and heat waves, that they're not going to be able to supply the power that California needs. So there's going to be, you know, some forms of blackouts or brownouts. We saw this last year rolling over into Nevada. What are your thoughts on this? And I guess the bigger question is, are we moving too fast into trying to get to renewable energy? Isn't this really like redevelopment, a 30-year project, rather than we got to get it done in 5 years project?
Well, it's interesting that you say 30 years, because in Nevada we have the integrated resource planning process, which is essentially a 30-year process, but it's revised every 3 years. So we're able to make adjustments. The commission is able to make adjustments based on what the Nevada Energy puts forth, and input from commission staff and Bureau of Consumer Protection and interveners like some of my clients, to address those very issues. There's also been, since what happened in, I think it was in Las Vegas in 2020, where there was a call for people to, it wasn't really a brownout, but reduce your usage. There was a docket that was opened by the commission to investigate how best to address these types of issues. And in fact, I know it'll be, by airtime, it will have already been gone, but today they are holding a consumer session on that, Nevada Energy is, and which will be accompanied by folks from the commission and staff, et cetera, to talk about these issues with consumers. So are we moving too fast? No, I don't think we are. I think that we have, that the commission has appropriately weighed what we need to replace while keeping existing reliable infrastructure in place. So Valmy, for instance, one of our coal-fired power plants, which is scheduled to be decommissioned.
Yeah, up in Humboldt County.
Yes, correct. So the company asked and the commission approved for that to essentially remain on some standby status for a while. And forgive me, I don't remember the end date to that, but those solar facilities have not even been built yet. And they're not, I think one is scheduled to come online in 2023 and one in 2025. So Valmy won't be affected. There won't be any reduction in Valmy's output until those are online, and then presumably they would remain at least available for standby if something were to happen. So meanwhile, the company has put forth an amendment to their integrated resource planning, which will allow for additional and different technologies of battery storage that will also help with our renewables, because as you know, the issue with reliability is that they can be viewed as intermittent use.
Okay, and that really is one of the key issues, which is getting to the point where battery technology is available on a massive scale.
Yes.
So that we do have a backup. Doug Cannon from MV Energy was here, and we were talking about some of the problems with hacking and what could happen, because obviously utilities were one of these things. And it was fascinating. I mean, he wasn't able to go into too much detail, but the backup plans for NV Energy are astonishing, that they would have to go back to really old technology that they still have in case, of a situation which we hope would never occur.
Right.
That was a very I would encourage people to go back on the website and review that show. So really, it's almost like you don't want anything to go away, let alone things be stranded assets.
Right, and that's a very good point, because you could build something, a new gas plant, but it wouldn't meet our state policy goals, which the commission is required to ensure are taken into account. And then once we could meet that, then you would be looking at a stranded asset for the rest of the life of that project. So it is interesting. We'll see what happens. But
and wouldn't consumers freak out because their costs would go up so greatly?
Yes, absolutely.
And don't politicians respond to consumers being freaked out? All right, I won't let you answer that. We'll take another break. We'll be right back. Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerhour, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Lina Tanner with Tanner Law and Strategy Group. So going back to the brownouts and the blackouts that are potentially going to occur in California and potentially come over to Nevada, again, how much of that are people going to put up with before politicians have to react to it?
Oh, I think it's very scary if it were to happen. I am hopeful.
Do you think it's not? I mean, what are the, because of the $1 billion lawsuits against PG&E. I mean, and Nevada Energy's got to be looking at that going, we don't want to deal with that either. Because, I mean, there already have been obviously settlements with some of the major fires that have happened in Nevada as well, without going into details there.
So one of the responses to that was an investigatory and rulemaking docket to address their natural resource planning. I didn't participate in it personally, but it does focus primarily on like Mount Charleston and Tahoe, as I understand. So, you know, what would happen if there was a massive forest fire and what would require them to power down. But to your point, yes, I don't think people are going to be very tolerant because it always obviously comes at the most needed time. You know, we're calling on more resources when we don't have them. So I think that this docket that I referred to that has the consumer session today will be hopefully informative to this issue to see where the company appears to feel like we're okay, but we're still moving towards making sure that in the next, you know, in the coming years, especially the next 3 years, that we won't have these issues.
All right, that's where we have to leave it for now, but because there's this meeting today, that means we have to invite you to come back and talk more about what comes out of this session. But yeah, if it's 114 degrees in Las Vegas and they say they've got to cut back on power, I think that's going to be a problem.
It's why I live in Reno.
We'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Do you play golf? The Optimist Club of Reno is hosting the inaugural Ray Pezzanella Memorial Charity Golf Tournament on June 3rd at the Lake Course at Red Hawk Golf and Resort. For more information, go to pezgolf.org. Funds raised go to benefit local children's programs.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com. You can also check our archive going back to 2005 on our website. Again, nevadanewsmakers.com. We'll see you on the next show.